I have a million questions, Antonio, on what you do with the mini-bots, how they fund themselves, will this coalition hold? How do you view it to the overall?
I think the good news for Italy is precisely what we just discussed, the search for yield. We tend to speak a lot about the spread between the Bund and the BTPs as a measure sort of country risk. Fine, but what matters is the overall yield. And the overall yield, because the Bund is at minus 25 basis points, means that the overall yield is down. And you actually have Italy funding at 10 years, actually funds a bit less on average, 7 years, at 2.2, 2.3%. Remember, the average cost of all the debt is 3. So the marginal is below the average, so still bringing the average down, making the debt more sustainable, paradoxically, because still with elevated risks. I think that's the key. That's what is holding everything together. Because everywhere else you look at, mini BOTs, the fiscal consolidation not happening, the politics with difficult solutions, there are risks everywhere. The question is whether there are not risks on Italy rather than whether. But so it's the funding that makes it all glued together. And I don't think the funding is necessarily is going to pick, spike. That is the key, right? The politics and the funding.
Antonio, into the summer and into 2020, we need a crisis to make things change. Do we kick the can down the road, in Germany particularly, or do we have a crisis embedded in what we're doing now where we can actually get something done?
Yeah, I mean, it is true that Europe has made progress after crisis and during crisis, but not only Europe, everybody else. A lot depends on what happens in the US, right? Remember the whole tariff story. Europe is a bit on the sidelines. So if you tell me, Tom, that actually car tariffs are coming, auto parts tariffs are coming, and that's very severe, as we discussed before. I mean, Europe as is going to be hit by around 50 basis points less growth in the baseline because of the China-US. If you overlay to that car tariffs, you actually engineer that kind of recession in several countries, including Germany, that may push Europeans in a positive interpretation of this to act. Now, that depends on who the next ECB leader will be and, how much leadership capacity we'll have. Because when crises come, it's the ECB where that tries to put things together.